Morning, and can I ask Michelle if there are any apologies?
Yes, we've had two apologies. We've had apologies from Councillor Emlyn Shivioni from Carmarthenshire and Councillor Mark Tierney from Pembrokeshire.
Are there any disclosures? If there are, if you could let Michelle know, and she will email out a template for you for completion. Excuse me, I'm sort of coughing and spluttering here, so apologies. The next item are minutes of the previous meeting. If I could ask you to look at those for accuracy, but could I say that I noticed on page 3, under the councillor group asked, Gareth Morgan's is down as Pembrokeshire, but he's actually Carmarthenshire. It would have been a big shock to Stephen, but he's actually down as he actually should be Carmarthenshire. So if you could just change that. But are there any other items? No. Could I ask for a proposer they be taken as a true record? One of you. There we are, Reese, and there we are. Great, thank you very much. The other thing you had a copy of is the letter that we sent to Councillor Glynog Davis following our last meeting for you to note. And then really, the next item is item 4, which is outline of the outcomes of Partneriaeth Joint Committee agenda held on the 25th of October. Ian, over to you.
Diolch, Chair. I think Helen had a hand up. I don't know if...
Oh, I beg your pardon. Helen, sorry.
Diolch, Cadeirydd. Mewn perthynas ar eitem ynglyn â'r cofnodion diwetha, dyma ni nodi bod cyfarwyddwr newydd yn Sir Gaerfyrddin, a oeddech chi'n ymwybodol bod cyfarwyddwr newydd wedi dechrau ers mis Tachwedd.
Sorry, Helen, and that is the new director?
Owen Lloyd, yn lle Gareth Morgans.
Okay, great, fine, thank you. Thanks very much. Right, back to item 4, over to you then, Ian.
Diolch, Chair. Just an opportunity for me to go through the outcomes of the Partneriaeth Joint Committee from the 18th of October. There was the appointment of chairs and vice chairs of the Joint Committee. So Councillor Glynog Davis was appointed as chair of Joint Committee for a 1-year term, and Councillors Robert Smith and Guy Woodham were appointed as vice chairs for a 1-year term as well. The lead director role and lead chief executive role. So the lead officer for Partneriaeth, so I informed Joint Committee the role of lead director rotated on a biannual basis, and that Stephen Richard Downs would undertake the role of lead director from November the 1st, taking over from Helen Morgan-Rees in Swansea. And it was also noted that the role of the chief executive would remain unchanged until April 2025. So that was confirmed there. Helen, as lead director, then took the committee through the item of transfer from the current legal agreement to a collaboration agreement moving forward. So the Joint Committee received a report on a proposal to change the governance and the associated running costs for Partneriaeth by transferring from the current legal agreement to a collaboration agreement. There was a question or a query as to whether that agreement itself would be taken to member authorities for confirmation. and the committee was advised there that it would be taken to the individual cabinets for approval in December 2024. So next month that will be taken through for approval, and that was unanimously resolved in that meeting. We then had the internal audit work programme for 24-25, and our head of internal audit outlined the programme and set out the arrangements for the internal audit review through the work programme for 24-25, and that had been prepared in accordance with the requirements of the public sector internal audit standards. The work programme sets out the objectives and the scope and the approach, as well as the reporting arrangements, and included the follow-up of the previous internal audit recommendations, the annual governance statement, financial management and risk management. So the Joint Committee was advised that the work programme be developed in consultation with the lead chief exec, the lead director of education, section 151 officer, and the lead officer of Partneriaeth. And once approved by the Joint Committee, it would be anticipated that work would begin during the spring of 2025 and reported back to the Joint Committee at a future meeting. So it was resolved that the internal audit work programme be approved. The next item on the agenda was the Partneriaeth financial report for 24-25, and Joint Committee received a report updating on the financial position of Partneriaeth at the end of August of 2024. There was a query around business funding objectives and a £20,000 underspend on salaries and where that money would be allocated to. And then that was discussed and resolved in a strategy meeting with directors on that same afternoon. The Partneriaeth lead officer update was the next agenda. So I gave an update to the Joint Committee on our business planning priorities, our professional learning, and also delivery against the local authority education grant funding. And I'll deliver an update to our joint scrutiny panel this morning as well on current work within Partneriaeth. The risk register was the next item that had been updated to reflect the new business planning priorities, and the new risk register was accepted by the Joint Committee, and that's another item that's on the agenda for this morning as well. The final item was the lease of our office space in Llwyfan in Carmarthen. So further to the meeting of the committee held in July, the Joint Committee considered a report on the renewal of the lease through to October of 2025. It was reported the current lease ends in October 2024, and Partneriaeth now has reduced needs in terms of office space due to staffing reduction, and this is now reflected in the new lease terms, and the new lease terms can be reviewed on an annual basis rather than it being a 3-year lease at a time. And then the committee was advised that there would be a saving of just over £7,000 per year due to giving up a hot desking room in Llwyfan and the reduced footprint in terms of office space in the office in Carmarthen. So that's a summary of the last Joint Committee meeting. Diolch.
Fine, thank you. Any questions to Ian on that before we go on to the briefing on the new priorities? Okay, no hands up. Ian, back over to you on the briefing on the 2 new priorities.
Yeah, I think, sorry, Stephen had his hand up, I think, Chair.
Oh, beg your pardon. Right, Stephen.
Yes, diolch, Cadeirydd. Just to note, the Pembrokeshire's Cabinet report will now go in January.
Okay, great, fine, thank you, and congratulations on being made the lead director, and thanks to Helen really for the work that she did, especially over the transition period as well. So thank you, and look forward to working with you, Stephen. Thank you very much. Right, Ian, over to you.
Diolch. It's the opportunity now really to update the committee this morning on the new Partneriaeth priorities from September of 2024, and really an update on the change in the organisation, but also on how we're delivering for your schools linked to our two priorities. So we've reduced the number of priorities following the restructure in the summer, and really the two priorities agreed by the strategic board moving forward, linked to the business plan, is really around curriculum delivery and supporting all schools to design and deliver their own high quality provision in the commission subject. So there is much more of a focus on specific specialism within that area, as well as an overview of some of the skills and also teaching and learning. So it is a reduced focus in terms of that, but there is specialist support to deliver across those commission subjects, with particular focus on English, on Cymraeg, on maths and numeracy, on science, and also on humanities. So it's a range of curriculum delivery, and working very closely with LA partners to make sure we've got the right coverage across the curriculum. So priority 2 then is the career pathways for leaders, practitioners and support staff at all levels of the system. So that priority is the one that takes into account the work with senior leaders, and including acting and experienced head teachers, and also middle leaders and newly qualified teachers, and also our teaching assistant professionals and their learning pathway. So that priority, which was in the previous business plan, is still part of the delivery to support the workforce across a range of priorities. So the report in the pack from page 14 reflects the current business plan and the delivery in operation since September 2024. We're offering a wide range of high quality support in line with expectations from our local authority partners. Page 15 to 24 contains the final version of the business plan agreed in the July joint committee. You'll note it does include local authority priorities, and these were updated to make sure they align with the Partneriaeth delivery as requested by our strategy group. So this is the business plan currently being delivered by officers within Partneriaeth following the restructuring summer of 2024. That staffing structure is included in the business plan, and as I said, there's a sharper focus there on specialism, but also a focus on in-school support and advisors delivering on the ground as frequently as is possible to ensure the maximum impact of the officers' work to support schools moving forward. So as I said, Partneriaeth's offering an appropriate range of high quality support for its schools and local authorities. We see this through a range of stakeholder groups, as well as strong collaboration agreement with our local authority colleagues. There is a range of bespoke and tailored support for schools and clusters, and again, we provide this based on information coming through from our local authority partners, and also school requests, but we make sure that support is aligned with those expectations. There's obviously been challenges in delivering two different business plans during the course of the 24-25 financial year, but from a lead officer perspective and hopefully from a director's perspective, well, the work's continued to be focused and consistent in terms of what it delivers for schools across the Partneriaeth region. So the business plan continues to be monitored quarterly. Partneriaeth's on track to deliver on expectations in the business plan. Resources and performance are discussed in every strategy group meeting with directors of education, and you'll see two versions of the monitoring on pages 27 and 29 of your packs. The first one reflects delivery expectations against the business plan that was delivered in the first two quarters of the financial year. And then page 29 reflects the quarter 3 and quarter 4 monitoring. Obviously, we're moving towards the end of quarter 3, where we'll monitor the current delivery. So an interim report has been produced and shared with directors and with Welsh Government, and there will be a full annual report produced against this business plan at the end of the financial year. This will include stakeholder perspectives and additional information around how we've utilised the grant and delivery for schools, including number of days of support and the impact of that support. In terms of our professional learning offer, as you would expect, this has been slimmed down to reflect the reduced capacity and the delivery of the organisation, but also as a result of feedback from stakeholders. I think in this time last year, we would have had well over 100 different professional learning opportunities for teachers and leaders to undertake. The feedback was actually it's too many, and there was too much on offer really, and a clearer line of sight to specialism would be welcome. And also in-school delivery would be very welcome. And again, we're seeing very good feedback in terms of when we're delivering to a whole cluster or a whole secondary setting, for example, we're able to hit every single member of staff, and that work will continue. So there's been a very conscious effort to listen to the feedback there and reduce the complexity, I would say, of the professional learning offer last year. So all of this work in terms of professional learning and the bespoke and tailored work will be evaluated throughout the year. We'll continue to develop case studies with our schools for each of those areas supported. Pages 31 to 33 give a flavour of the offer from September, clearly setting out the two priority areas, and it's much easier, I would argue, for schools to access the level of support they would like. And again, I've been presenting to head teachers this week in terms of the offer to ensure maximum engagement, really. So all professional learning reflects both the national priorities, but also, in some ways, more importantly, your local priorities. And it is very much in keeping with the expectations of my directors that we meet the local needs as an organisation, but also the national profile of focus on literacy and numeracy, for example, is also in our scope. We've developed some programmes in-house, such as the advanced reading programme. And again, that's been very, very well received. It's been co-constructed with schools, but also with local authority colleagues to ensure that we've got maximum buy-in. And the Teach for Purpose programme is another good example of a collaborative approach when we're doing our planning with local authority colleagues and with our schools as well. As you would expect, all professional learning sessions have evaluation at the end of them, but also follow-up tasks to ensure that work reaches the classroom and has a real impact on learners across your local authorities. And when the annual report is produced, that will look specifically at that impact in the classroom in terms of our delivery and the effectiveness of it moving forward. There are a range of strategy on a page documents that have been developed for our commissioned areas of learning and experience. And these reflect that collaborative approach really between Partneriaeth and our partner local authorities. So pages 35 to 39 give you a flavour of these documents. They focus on a few key priorities that we would be supporting in each of those areas, but also some of those bespoke and tailored opportunities for schools and practitioners to work with us, as well as the open professional learning offer. This has been developed really to avoid duplication, to make sure that we are delivering alongside our local authorities and make sure that we're adding value rather than just duplicating a local authority offer. So again, I'm comfortable that is the case, but these documents put in a little bit of a safety net to ensure that those conversations continue to be robust and there continues to be an appropriate level of challenge there. So it does mean that we've had those conversations with local authority colleagues who are named on the documents, and they're shared documents. So they were, obviously developed by Partneriaeth, but we've ensured that then there's been additional comments and quality assurance process really with our local authority colleagues. So we're consistently working with your local authority officers to ensure that any offer is responsive, and where there is a specific request from a local authority to meet a local need, we are as responsive as possible in supporting that development to ensure that we are meeting the needs of our local authorities as a whole, but also to those individual needs. Excuse me. So that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour around where our priorities are at the moment in terms of delivery, what the business plan looks like, and that reduced delivery really in terms of two priorities. Happy to take any comments or questions. Diolch.
Great, fine. Thank you very much, Ian, and thank you for taking us through that, the new priorities, and also the work that you've been doing in the transition period as well, from going from one, where with the way the Partneriaeth were organised to the current model. Any questions? I can see Rhys has got his hand up. Rhys.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thanks, Ian, for that whistle-stop tour there. You've given us some examples of how you plan to gather impact of the priorities. But the question I've got is, what mechanisms are in place for us to be able to scrutinise that evidence?
Again, there is the annual report really will show the level of impact that's there. What we tend to do is that at the end of each professional learning event or each bespoke bit of training, there's evaluations. Again, happy to share the process with councillors if it'll be helpful. So that evidence is captured. What the request from advisors is that then that follow-up work's really important, because the evaluation on the day will give you a flavour of how a practitioner's felt about the day. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be that follow-up in terms of classroom activities. So there is a process where the evaluation is taken on the day. There is also expected follow-up in terms of sampling the schools who've been on the professional learning to ensure that work is implemented, and it's not just relying on we've had a good day, we thought it was good, but there is that level of impact. So the process internally is clear. Again, more than happy to come back and share that process to ensure that you're clear on what the process and the follow-up is.
Great, fine. Thank you, Ian. Any other questions? I've got one. I didn't realise I was going to ask this question, so I better declare an interest. I'm a member of Swansea SACRA. Ian, you mentioned the restructuring and school support, and you mentioned humanities amongst that, and obviously nowadays RVE is part of humanities, so that's geography, history, RVE. What support do you give specifically to RVE? Because as you know, that's a statutory obligation on Welsh Government to provide an adequate provision.
Yeah, thank you. What provision is there? We've obviously got our humanities advisor, but we've also got a high quality secondee who was previously seconded and currently seconded from Swansea, who continues to support across the 3 local authorities. I'll let Helen come in a second. So we appreciate that highly specialist area and the sensitivities around that, and I think the feeling from our 3 directors was having that secondee with that specific remit was really helpful in order to develop that provision. So the work of that advisor is still visible on our professional learning site, even though she's not a Partneriaeth employee, but she is seconded across the 3 local authorities.
Okay, great, fine, thank you. Helen.
Dim ond i ategu bod Abertawe yn cyflogi'r person hynny a wedi ymestyn y secondiad mwyn bod Sir Gyfyrddin a Sir Benfro yn elwa o'r adnodd hynny. Mae'r adnodd sydd gyda ni yn werthfawr iawn, yn cael ei werthfawrogi, felly ni'n gobeithio byddwn ni'n gallu parhau ar trefniant hynny.
Thank you very much. Rhys.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies if what Helen just said is what I'm about to say, because I'm not getting the translation for some reason, so I didn't understand what she said, but apologies. So in terms of the priorities and how they're resourced, what resources are available, and are they sufficient?
Yeah, so in terms of how we're resourced, so our strategic board really have decided on our priorities for delivery, and then we receive funding from the local authority education grant in terms of those elements of reform that we deliver on. So obviously we've had challenges this year with different levels of staffing throughout the year prior to the restructure, but we've been resourced to have those 2 separate workloads really throughout the year. So in terms of sufficient resource for delivery, yes, it is sufficient in terms of delivery. Obviously, we know a little bit more in early December in terms of what the next settlement will look like. And again, it's a regular discussion with our strategy group in terms of how we're resourced and what the delivery is to make sure that it's appropriate. And it's both ways really, that we haven't got too little resource, but also we're not bloated in terms of having too much. Really, I think it's both areas there.
Okay, Helen.
Ie, i ni yn defnyddio arian grant ar gyfer cyflogi staff partneriaeth, felly mae yna risg gyda arian grant yn nhermau cyflogaeth, a ni'n derbyn ac yn nodi risg hynny ac yn monitro'r risg hynny, ond hefyd mae yna arian revenue sy'n cael ei ddefnyddio i sicrhau bod costiau rhedeg partneriaeth ac unrhyw gostau eraill yn ymwneud â pethau fel costiau'r swyddfa yn cael eu cynnal, ond mae'r cyfarwyddwyr wedi gweithio gyda'i gilydd i sicrhau bod nhw'n gyfforddus gyda'r lefel o risg maen nhw eisiau cydnabod, oherwydd mae'r grant sy'n mynd mewn i partneriaeth yn dod ato ni fel awdurdodau yn y lle cyntaf, a dyma beth sydd wedi digwydd eleni am y tro cyntaf. Felly mae'r cyfarwyddwyr yn gallu penderfynu faint maen nhw moyn rhyddhau at waith rhanbarthol a faint maen nhw moyn cadw yn yr awdurdodau lleol unigol. Felly mae'r cyfarwyddwyr wedi pennu lefel o arian byddwn ni'n dymuno cyflwyno tuag at gwaith partneriaeth.
Okay, great. Any other questions? Any other questions from anyone? I can't see any hands up.
Oh, I'm not able to put my hand up. Sorry.
Right, Mark. That's okay. Mark. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, the original way. So put your hand up. Yeah.
And shout if I can. Just to say hello, and this is my first meeting, so it's great to meet you all this morning. I just wondered, in regards to the priorities, Ian, just what the uptake from schools is like. So I know the first time around you said that there was just too much on offer. Maybe you're flooding the market, maybe. But in terms of the uptake, what are your expectations, and how are you engaging with schools on that?
Thanks. Yeah, good. I think flooding the market probably is a good description. Previously, there was probably too much out there, and the response, particularly from school leaders, was it's a bit overwhelming. We're not really sure what we're getting here. So I think the reduced offer means that uptake's better. There are a range of network meetings for both primary and secondary, which are our probably main delivery and main link with the profession. I think my expectation would be really that at some point in sort of every cycle, that every school is getting something from us. I think one of the challenges that I've made, and I did with primary heads in Swansea last week, for example, was make use of the organisation. It's there to support you, and the uptake is healthier this year due to the reduced offer. I think the real strength, Councillor Tierney, is when from a network meeting there is then further requests for in-school support, and that's the challenge really, to get schools to utilise the service. So at the moment we're looking at significantly more days supported this year than last year, but I think there is more yardage to be gained, I think, in terms of that level of support. So we've got very clearly agendaed network meetings, for example, but from that we would really encourage the schools attending those networks to request that additional in-school support as and when they need it. So it really is that challenge. So uptake's much healthier this year, but I think only when we see the full picture of what the tailored and bespoke bit looks like, and that's when we'll really see if we're sort of meeting the challenge to get into all 264 schools or whatever we've got across the partnership. It's a big ask, and some schools will meet their professional learning needs in a variety of ways, including supporting each other, which is absolutely appropriate. So I think it's we're in a healthy position because we're delivering less and delivering it effectively, but I think there probably is a little further to go in terms of getting all our schools to really see what the new hopefully clarified offer is in terms of that sort of line of sight for support.
That's great. And then if just one more point, if I can, just how do our priorities then kind of dovetail with the priorities just recently announced by the Cabinet Secretary in the Welsh Government? What consideration to that has been given?
Yeah, I think the main the CabSec's announcement really around the strengthening of provision for literacy and numeracy in particular. Again, we have frequent conversations with our local authority officers to ensure we've got an aligned offer there in terms of something like the Teaching Advanced Reading programme, and that we've got that coherence of delivery. So it's very much on the agenda. Directors are very keen for that support for literacy and numeracy, and that the specialist teaching, if you like, of those particular skills to come through from Partneriaeth. So we're very comfortable we've got those elements covered. Something like attendance, which is one of the other big issues, that would come under the local authority remit rather than our remit, but we're very happy that we've got a skilled workforce to deliver those national priorities that were in all local delivery plans anyway. So it does align very well in terms of that level of support. I think one of our challenges is to ensure that we're in the room when this national picture is being built, so we're able to deliver something that is as coherent as possible, and then it doesn't become disjointed provision, which then provides confusion, I think, for schools. So I think at the moment we're very much on the same page in terms of delivering those national priorities.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great, fine, thanks. Any other questions? Okay, great, fine, thank you, and thanks, Ian, for that. The next item on the agenda is the updated risk profile. Ian.
Yeah, diolch. Final thing from me, it's the risk register. So the risk profile has been updated for September 2024. The reason for that, and again, we would have covered this in the last meeting, was that it's now in line with delivery of the new business plan objectives from September of 2024. So it's linked to that delegated local authority education grant funding, and you'll see the register on pages 41 to 61 of the pack for today's meeting. So the report outlines the overall risk profile for the region, and probably worth noting that the heat map in the document indicates the following risks as scoring. For example, medium probability and high impact. That lack of clarity regarding functions of Partneriaeth. Again, we've obviously had a restructure, and it's very important to us to make sure that it's clear to stakeholders partly what we're delivering, but also what we are not delivering, so we can keep that clarity there in terms of delivery and the functions. And again, the medium probability and very high impact is the insufficient funding to meet the running costs of Partneriaeth going forward. Helen just outlined the risks involved with grant funding, really, and it needs to be there as a risk moving forward. So there's been a slight change. Previously, there was a risk linked to Welsh Government funding arriving in the regional grant in a timely fashion. That's no longer an appropriate risk for the organisation, because the money flows and the grant funding flows in a different way. And our 24-25 funding has been agreed, and obviously we will look at the financial risk moving forward when we know the grant settlement in terms of moving into 25-26. So there's been a reduction from 10 to 9 risks on the register. There was a risk associated with governance. That has been removed as one of the clear communication with stakeholders. Risk is now encompassed in one of the other functions. So there's been a slight tweak there, but the current risk register now reflects the business plan delivery from September of 2024. So it's been realigned really with the expectations of delivery from September. Diolch.
Okay, great, fine, thanks. Have we got any questions? I've got one, Ian, while possibly people are thinking, and that is, apologies. Last time there was obviously a lack of clarity regarding functions. Now you've got your new priorities. That gets taken out of the equation. But there was concern about the restructuring. It created uncertainty for staff. How has that now has that got itself into a better position?
Yeah, I'd say it's much stronger. Obviously, it was a difficult time for staff, and post restructure from September, I think, in terms of our staff delivering in their specialism and delivering high quality support for schools, I think it is really clear. I think we're not looking at generic advisors trying to provide a range of support, and we've got our advisors working very closely with local authority advisors in terms of delivering high quality specialist support, which was very much in keeping with the ask from directors in terms of the new organisation. So my response to that is that yes, staff are settled, they're very comfortable, maybe the wrong word, but confident in terms of the delivery across the 3 local authorities, and are in a strong position really to continue to support schools and settings as we move forward, given the reduced priorities reflecting the reduced workforce.
Very fine, thanks. That is important because that does it does represent, or it would otherwise represent, quite a risk because it's about you being able to deliver those priorities, and that is obviously important. The only thing I would add is that obviously to get to this stage, because I think you've been through, and I think I've been on this group for a number of years, we've been through quite a few geysers, you know, to get to this point, and probably millions of pounds spent, and we've almost come not full circle, but we've moved a long way from where we started, really. So that, you know, is something for councillors to note, really. But thank any other questions to Ian on the risk register or the risk profile, I should say. No, can't see any hands up. So great, thank you very much for that. And the next item on the agenda is to discuss points for the letter to the chair of Partneriaeth. So Ian and Helen, you can very welcome to stay, but you can escape as well while we discuss that. Thank you. Yeah, to you both. Okay, and Stephen as well, actually, if you this bit. We're obviously discussing points that we are going to send on to the chair of Partneriaeth. And any thoughts from anyone? Michelle has been busily taking notes, and we'll send a sort of a draft copy around. But are there anything that you'd like to include in that particularly? Anything at all? Okay, well, I'll speak to Michelle following this meeting. We look at the points that were raised, and we'll send a copy round to you. And anything you like, you know, you obviously want to add, or any comments you've got, please let us know. And you know, other than that, we've come to the end of this meeting, and can I say thank you very much for attending, and we look forward to seeing you at a date in February. So in the meantime, can I be the first person to ever tell you this year, have a nice Christmas. I know it's a bit early, but I won't see you some of you before. So have a good Christmas, and I'll see you in the new year. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lyndon. See ya. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.